I am continuing my reading, and what I'm doing in this series is to read through the entire standard works of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This consists of the Bible, the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price. I am reading in a chronological order of events, not according to publication or volume, so I will be skipping around a little bit as I move along, especially when I get into the time of the Kings. Right now, however, I am still in the book of Deuteronomy, and this will be chapter 12. Israel to destroy Canaanitish gods and places of worship. The Lord will designate where his people shall worship. Eating of blood forbidden. Israel's worship must conform to divine standard. These are the statutes and judgments which ye shall observe to do in the land which the Lord God of thy fathers giveth thee to possess it in all all the days that ye live upon the earth. Ye shall utterly destroy all the places wherein the nations which ye shall possess serve their gods, upon the high mountains, and upon the hills, and upon every green tree. And ye shall overthrow their altars, and break their pillars, and burn their groves with fire. And ye shall hew down the graven images of their gods, and destroy the names of them out of that place. Ye shall not do so unto the Lord your God, but unto the place which the Lord your God shall choose out of all your tribes to put his name there, even unto his habitation shall ye seek. And thither thou shalt come. And thither ye shall bring your burnt offerings and your sacrifices and your tithings and heave offerings of your hand, and your vows and your freewill offerings, and the firstlings of your herds and of your flocks. And there ye shall eat before the Lord your God, and ye shall rejoice in all that ye put your hand unto, ye and your households, wherein the Lord thy God hath blessed thee. Ye shall not do after all the things that we do here this day, every man whatsoever is right in his own eyes. For ye are not as yet come to the rest and to the inheritance which the Lord your God giveth you. Well, that's interesting. Well, first of all, I want to say I like this. Destroy all their gods, wipe them out, destroy the altars, destroy the idols, destroy the places, the locations, just level them, burn them, get rid of them. But don't do that to God. You got to set God up in the place that he chooses, and everybody needs to go to that location to worship. Now, I don't think that God is requiring them to go to one specific location. I think, they do build the temple in Jerusalem eventually, and it's like once a year, everybody should go to the temple. But for your general daily worship, you can't have everybody traveling to Jerusalem every day. So there are other places of worship for daily sacrifices and things like that. But he's talking about like the Passover. You got to go to Jerusalem for the Passover. You got to go to the temple. But verse 8 is very interesting. Ye shall not do after all these things that we do here to this day. Let me continue reading a little bit while I mull that over. Verse 10. But when ye go over Jordan and dwell in the land which the Lord your God giveth you to inherit, and when he giveth you rest from all your enemies round about, so that ye dwell in safety, then there shall be a place which the Lord your God shall choose to cause his name to dwell there. Thither shall ye bring all that I command you, burnt offerings, and your sacrifices, your tithings, and heave offering of your hand, and all your choice vows which ye vow unto the Lord. And ye shall rejoice before the Lord your God, ye and your sons and your daughters, and your menservants and your maidservants, and the Levite that is within your gates, for as much as he hath no part nor inheritance with you. Take heed to thyself that thou offer not thy burnt offerings in every place that thou seest, but in the place which the Lord shall choose in one of thy tribes. There thou shalt offer thy burnt offerings, and there thou shalt do all that I command thee. Notwithstanding, Thou mayest kill and eat flesh in all thy gates, whatsoever thy soul lusteth after, according to the blessing of the Lord thy God, which he hath given thee. The unclean and the clean may eat thereof, as of the roebuck, and as of the hart. Only ye shall not eat the blood. Ye shall pour it upon the earth as water. Okay, so it's a little confusing as to what they mean here. I'm not quite sure I understand this myself, but it's basically saying that while they're in the camp of Israel and traveling, they had to observe certain customs, certain ways of doing things because they were in the camp. Once they are in their own land and they've got their houses and they're growing their crops and all this stuff, then things have to change because circumstances have changed. And it's like, okay, right now we have certain rules and regulations regulating the camp. Once you get into the land, those regulations no longer apply. Don't try and enforce the regulations of the camp on the inheritances of the land, because it don't work. But even when you are in your inheritances, you still need to travel to the temple for certain rituals, for certain rites, certain ordinances. Now we will see later on evidence that God did set up multiple locations. The headquarters of the church was Jerusalem, or wherever the tabernacle was, and then later the temple. That was the headquarters, and where the daily sacrifices and the yearly, the main Passover feast and everything. But remember, God did tell them, wherever you are, you're going to do the Passover. Don't worry about coming to Jerusalem. Wherever you're at the time. If you can't make it, don't worry about it. Just celebrate the Passover where you're at. But there are certain ordinances that have to be done at the temple. And so that's what he's saying here. Let us continue. Verse 17. Thou mayest not eat within thy gates the tithe of thy corn, or of thy wine, or of thy oil, or the firstlings of thy herds, or of thy flock, nor any of thy vows which thou vowest, nor any freewill offerings or heave offerings of thine hand. But thou must eat them before the Lord thy God in the place which the Lord thy God shall choose. Thou and thy son, and thy daughter, and thy manservant, and thy maidservant, and the Levite that is within thy gates, and thou shalt rejoice before the Lord thy God in all that thou puttest thine hands unto. Take heed to thyself, that thou forsake not the Levite, as long as thou livest upon the earth. So again, just re-emphasizing that there are certain ordinances that have to be done at the temple. You can't do them at home. Verse 20. When the Lord thy God shall enlarge thy border, as he hath promised thee, and thou shalt say, I will eat flesh, because thy soul longeth to eat flesh, thou mayest eat flesh, whatsoever thy soul lusteth after. If the place which the Lord thy God hath chosen to put his name there be too far from thee, then thou shalt kill of thy herd and of thy flock, which the Lord hath given thee, as I have commanded thee, and thou shalt eat in thy gates whatsoever thy soul lusteth after. Even as the roebuck and the hart is eaten, so thou shalt eat them. The unclean and the clean shall eat of them alike. Only be sure that thou eat not the blood, for the blood is the life, and thou mayest not eat the life with the flesh. Thou shalt not eat of it. Thou shalt pour it upon the earth as water. Thou shalt not eat it, that it may go well with thee and with thy children after thee, when thou shalt do that which is right in the sight of the Lord. Only thy holy things which thou hast, and thy vows, thou shalt take and go unto the place which the Lord shall choose. And thou shalt offer thy burnt offerings, the flesh and the blood upon the altar of the Lord thy God. And the blood of thy sacrifices shall be poured out upon the altar of the Lord thy God, and thou shalt eat the flesh. Observe and hear all these words which I command thee, that it may go well with thee, and with thy children after thee forever, when thou doest that which is good and right in the sight of the Lord thy God. So again, say the Passover, you can eat the general feast, the festivals. They can be done wherever you're at. You don't need to travel to the temple, but there are the sin offerings, the burnt offerings. These ordinances do have to be done at the temple or at specially designated places. And as I said, we will see later on evidence that there were places that you could do these ordinances that were not the temple. And that's something that a lot of people don't pick up on, but there is evidence of that. But let us finish the chapter, verse 29. When the Lord thy God shall cut off the nations from before thee, whither thou goest to possess them, and thou succeedest them, and dwellest in their land, take heed to thyself that thou be not snared by following them, after that they be destroyed from before thee, and that thou inquire not after their gods, saying, How did these nations serve their gods? Even so will I do likewise. Thou shalt not do so unto the Lord thy God, for every abomination to the Lord which he hateth have they done unto their gods. For even their sons and their daughters they have burnt in the fire to their gods. What things soever I command you, observe to do it. Thou shalt not add thereto, nor diminish from it. So don't even try to learn how these guys worshipped. Don't try to figure out what their rites and their ordinances and their sacrifice. Just leave it alone. You already know that they were a pile of evil, wicked men, and every form of abomination, every form of evil that they could do, they were doing. That's all you need to know. You don't need to know the specifics. Know that they were burning their children alive, and know that that's not good. But I will say this is I think the fourth time in 12 chapters that this has been restated in various ways. Thou shalt not add thereto, nor diminish from it. And this is saying don't change the law. God has given you his law. Don't add to it. Don't try and make it better. Don't try to elevate the law beyond what God has made it. And don't try to reduce it. Don't try to lower it. Don't just leave it where it is. This is not talking about adding new scripture. This is not talking about new prophets coming. This is saying don't change the law. Only God has the authority to change his law. And if any man tries to, he is fighting against God. But I think this will come up again a few more times in Deuteronomy, that you do not add thereto nor diminish from it. So, anyways, we'll see you in the next one.